Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friday Charge from the EV Geek podcast. We're your hosts, Joel and Sebastian. And today, January 10th, 2025, we have a handful of topics such as, the big one is just that we have officially now seen the new Model Y. So that's fun. And then we also have some stuff about NHTSA and stuff about the Germans. And yeah, should be a good show. So without further ado, let's plug in and get started. So our first topic is that Tesla has officially unveiled the new Model Y in China. So we've been seeing, little sneak peeks and rumors of it for a while now. Everyone's known it's coming, and now it is actually real. So this came right after, within the same day as the pictures leaked earlier this morning of the Model Y testing without camouflage. And so right after that now it is official, which is pretty cool. Vehicle looks like it's the same proportions as the existing Model Y, but now there's a light bar on both the front and rear, which is similar to the new Cybercab. Interior wise, it all looks pretty similar. It's got the same improvements, it looks like, as we found on the new Model 3. However, there are some market variations, so it could be tweaked a little bit between the Chinese market and here. And on that subject, mechanically, it's not quite clear how much has been changed. Tesla's still advertising the same peak charge rate of 250 kilowatt, which almost makes me wonder if it's a different battery. And as far as range goes, I believe they said 700 kilometers on the all-wheel drive with a big battery, which is roughly 300 something miles, which sounds about the same as the current car. And so that's where I was kind of hoping to see improvements was mechanically, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Joel, you own a Model Y.
I do.
How do you feel?
So, yeah, these are kind of the changes we were expecting. We were kind of figuring some of the changes that we saw with the Model 3, kind of like, the updated ambient lighting, the rear screen and things that we kind of expected that. What I do like is how they changed the front of the car. So you have the whole light bar that goes across. You have the skinny headlights, which is kind of different than what the Model 3 has in the refresh. I hope the suspension is better. That's one thing, the current Model Y has against it. I really like this blue color that we're seeing in this picture. I hope that transfers over here to the US. You can also kind of see where the new camera is at the bottom down here, kind of right below the little front lip there. I'm kind of circling it. So it looks like they will have a front camera on it as well. Be curious how they keep that clean and things like that. Unless it has some water that spits out like the BMW had on it, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so, looking at some of the interior pics here, looks kind of about the same. I'm excited about this. This car really needed an update. And like you said, when you do all the transferring from CLTC kilometers to EPA kilometers back to EPA miles, it averages about, we'll probably think somewhere between, 315, 350 EPA estimated is probably what we're getting. And kind of like you, I was kind of hoping for longer range out of this. I was kind of hoping to get it to around 400, and maybe they will. Maybe our conversions are just crap. But yeah, I love it. I like how it looks like in this video when you walk up to it, this area here, the front already automatically opens.
I don't know.
That's an interesting. I don't know if that's just an ad gimmick or what, but that's pretty cool. So yeah, kind of the same things that we're seeing with the Model 3. The front view camera provides a wider view. Of course, it's going to be super safe. It's going to charge pretty well. So yeah, I like it. It's finally come out in China in Q1, which means that's kind of what they did with the Model 3. And I think when the Model 3 was available in the US, was it Q2?
I think something like that. I think it wasn't too long after.
So probably early spring is when we hopefully will see this over here in the US.
So Joel, I have a second question for you.
What's your second question?
Do we think Tesla has done enough?
It's always, I compare Tesla to Apple. Every time we get a new Apple phone that comes out, we're like, I like the upgrades, but it kind of still looks the same. So I think for your kind of hardcore Tesla owners, they're going to switch over to this. They're going to want this. Does it attract new buyers? I don't know, because I think those who are anti-Tesla are still going to be anti-Tesla after this vehicle comes out. I don't know how many people were on the fence saying, you know, I would buy a Tesla, but I kind of am waiting on the redesign. I don't know how many of those people were out there. I hope, because, you know, increased Tesla sales mean just overall EV sales in general go up. So that's a tough question. I'm going to say no. So,
Okay.
because, I mean, did we see a lot of increased sales when they refreshed the Model 3? I mean, they refreshed the Model 3 last year and had less sales last year than they did the year before. So
Right.
it didn't translate with the Model 3. The Model 4 is a better selling car. They may get a
Model
bump in
4. Ooh.
Sorry. It's late and it's snowing. So yes. That's
Sorry.
their new model no one knows about. Shh. Yes, but the Model Y, I don't know if there's enough with this to be a drastic, you know, to excite the market that much. So we're going to see, you know, 2.5 million sales next year, you know.
Yeah, for me, this is exactly what I expected it to be. You know, everyone's was kind of hoping, was like, oh, are they going to do 800 volt? Are they going to do, you know, 500 miles of range? Are they going to do blah, 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 blah? And I was fully expecting, because I didn't expect, you know, the Model 3 and Model Y were already very similar. I didn't expect that to change, right? I would have loved to see some better battery tech maybe. And who's to say that we won't get it in the
Yep.
US? You know, we're using the China car because that's what was announced first. It's entirely possible that it gets a different battery pack in the US. I kind of think it's unlikely.
Yep.
But it's possible.
Yep.
And so I would have liked to see, 250 kilowatt peak charging is fine, but you and I both know the curve is not amazing. And so I would have liked to see some maybe improvement there. And who knows, maybe there is improvement.
Maybe there is an improved curve we just don't know about. So
we just don't know it. It just, on paper, it doesn't seem like it's mechanically that different. I do agree with you. If they didn't fix the suspension, I don't know why they bothered refreshing the car.
Yep.
I don't know how the suspension lasted as long as it did. That's a whole different conversation.
The whole door shaking off or something. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is basically exactly what I thought it was. It's probably enough, because the Model Y has been the best-selling EV and the number one EV in the world for how long now? So people obviously didn't mind how it was before. That's
and
not to
probably
say
will be still the number one EV this year. So yeah.
Yeah, that's not to say that Tesla should just give up. And because the market's coming, cars are getting better and better. Their competition's getting better and better. Eventually, they're going to lose some ground if they don't also make their products better and better. But currently, I think they're doing okay. And so, yeah, I think it's fine. I would have liked to see more, but it's also exactly what I expected.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, it's kind of with the Cybertruck, or we kind of expected, big range on the Cybertruck, cheaper pricing, and what we got was, lower range and more pricing. So I'm sure with the Model Y, just like the Model 3, the pricing will be the same. The range is going to be the same. But yeah, they may have some changes that come to the US once this launches over here. So we'll just have to wait and see. And then when it does, we will talk about it here in the podcast.
Yep, for sure. Moving on. The Germans have announced some supercharging plans.
The Germans!
So first off, Mercedes-Benz has announced that it will be gaining access to the Tesla Supercharger network in February of 2025. They did not give an exact date. They just said in February. Mercedes-Benz dealerships will be providing a free update to compatible vehicles to ensure a seamless plug-in charge experience. I'm going to just put a little asterisk next to that for right now. Superchargers will be integrated into the Mercedes Me Charge, which is a terrible name. Awful, 0 out of 10. Anyway, it gives me Jar Jar Binks vibes.
Jar Jar Binks?
Misa charging now? Sorry. And we're derailed.
Yes.
Anyway, the Mercedes Me Charge service, which will enable plug-in charge on several networks, as well as the Tesla Superchargers, and the Mercedes Me Charge service is also what does the route planning in both the Mercedes app and the in-car infotainment. My asterisk comes up here. Mercedes Me Charge is not free. It currently requires an $80 a year subscription, which in the grand scheme of things, yes, $80 a year isn't that much money. But having to pay $80 a year for plug-in charge is a little silly, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, this feels like they're nickel and diming.
And on the subject of nickel and diming, Mercedes is also not going to be providing these adapters. They are instead going to be selling them through their dealer network for $185. So you spend $100-something thousand on your Mercedes EV, and then you have to spend $80 a year to do route planning and plug and charge, and then $185 on the CCS adapter. It's like, what? Come on. And it's important to note too that Mercedes Me Charge, the $80 fee, is separate from the cost of the app. So the actual like in-car subscription that Mercedes has for the app and their OnStar like features or whatever is a additional cost on top of Mercedes Me Charge. Every time I say it, you giggle, and I'm not going to stop saying it.
I can't help it.
And so yeah, I mean, great. They're joining. They're getting Supercharger access. We meet every Tuesday. Welcome to the club.
Yep.
But yeah, it just feels like you said, they are nickel and diming every aspect of the experience. And I don't know if it's because they think that Mercedes owners will just pay it and just take it because they own a Mercedes, or I don't know what it is, but it just feels, as someone who doesn't drive a $120,000 car, I feel like if I spent $120,000 on a car, the least they could do is give me the adapter so I can charge the thing, right?
Yep.
Especially if Hyundai is giving out free adapters, and Ford and Rivian, like all of these automakers have announced that they will be doing free adapters or have done free adapters. But then Mercedes, who sells EVs that cost over $100,000, some that cost less than, but
Yep.
EQS, EQS SUV and sedan, and the EQS Maybach, and all that, like, are all well over $100,000. Like,
easily.
I don't know, make it to where if you have an EQE and an EQS, you get a free adapter, but if you bought an EQB, then you buy it. I don't know. I just, it just seems weird.
So yeah, so looking at the article from Green Car Reports that we just showed you, it looks like the software update has to be installed at the dealerships.
Mm-hmm. It's free, but it has to be done at a dealership.
But that just sucks. And they're going to contact you. You cannot contact the dealership. They will contact you.
Yeah, that also seems
sus. As the kids would say.
I'm sure you hear it all the time.
Yes. So, that's $185. I don't know why they're charging for it. It's just like, I don't know why Kia is charging for it. So hopefully Kia reverses their stance and charges for it. So, yeah. So you said Mercedes and Volkswagen. So
I haven't said Volkswagen yet. Spoiler alert.
Sorry. Volkswagen. Spoiler alert. Sorry. So, but yeah, so what other German automakers are also getting Supercharger access? Sebastian?
So the other German automaker getting Supercharger access soon is Volkswagen.
For real?
Honestly, I expected Volkswagen to be the last one.
Yes.
So yes, for real. Volkswagen will be joining sometime this summer. They did not give an actual specific date or month as well. And Volkswagen has stated their current holdup is sourcing an official Volkswagen adapter. So I don't know if that means that they intend to use a third party such as Lectron or whoever's doing the Hyundai Kia adapter, or if they're saying that they're waiting for Tesla to start providing adapters. I'm not 100% sure what they mean by that, but that is what they say the holdup is. And they've not provided any information as to how much the adapter will cost, how they'll distribute it to owners, whether or not vehicles will need updates, what vehicles support it, blah, 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 blah. But in theory, when they get access to Tesla Superchargers, it should include Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, and the other Volkswagen Group vehicles.
So yeah, I'm curious how this will affect their relationship with Electrify America, because Volkswagen does have an ownership stake in Electrify America. I'll be curious how that happens. We haven't heard a lot from EA recently, like in huge expansions or anything like that. We've heard from other supercharger companies, Iona, places, people like that, EVgo, expanding the network. We haven't heard a lot from Electrify America. So I'll be curious how that relationship will work out. I mean, we all knew Volkswagen was going to have to do it sooner or later. They were a holdout. They were going to have to do it. They probably didn't want to do it because of their stake in ownership in EA, but just with all the flack, EA has been getting with their stations, and they have gotten better. We've heard some instances where EA is getting better, and saw some, videos, from the Out of Spec team and things like that, where EA probably has been improving. But another side note on Mercedes-Benz, I did see in that article that their cars this year are going to be coming with NACS.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's been some talk about it previously, and they've teased a little bit, I believe, on the new CLA EV. They,
Hmm.
kind of announced it was going to have both ports. It was going to have a NACS and CCS port.
Hmm.
And so I kind of feel like that's going to be what we start to see on several Mercedes models as they then start just transitioning full on to NACS.
Yep.
Which I guess if you have whenever the new CLA EV comes out, you won't need an adapter, which will be nice.
Yep.
You won't need an adapter for either direction, because that's kind of been the sticking point, is all these automakers that say they're going to switch to NACS native ports. You're just trading one adapter for another, because
Hmm.
there's still a ton of CCS stations in the ground. And that probably aren't going anywhere anytime soon, because there's still a ton of CCS cars on the road.
So, quick question for you, because you maybe follow this more than I do. Then all the new the new charging stations that are going out, are they CCS and Tesla, or just CCS, like the ones from Iona and things like that?
So I believe Iona plans to do CCS and NACS.
Okay.
However, I'm not 100% certain if, for example, on NEVI funding, I don't know if it's been updated yet to say NACS is an acceptable plug.
Gotcha.
When they originally did NEVI funding, it was designed around CCS. So I'm
Hmm.
not sure if that's been changed at this point. And Lord knows we're not going to get any information from from Arkansas on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Nope.
but yeah, so I know like there's a lot of these CPOs are saying that they're going to start installing NACS and CCS ports, but we're
Hmm.
still seeing a lot of new stations open up that are CCS only, just because these things take time, right?
Yep.
You know, this
And
whole shift
yep.
to NACS is only like a year old, and we have stations that have been in the planning phase for over a year and have had hardware in the planning phase, whatever. In theory, switching a cable to NACS should be as easy as just switching the cable, because NACS is essentially just CCS on a smaller plug.
Hmm.
But, that's in theory.
Yeah.
Then you
When
get
you
into
yeah.
whether or not the hardware you bought actually has a NACS cable they support, or if they've developed one, or blah, 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 blah. There's so many moving pieces in the puzzle.
Yeah, and you have to think about it. As a Tesla owner, I don't charge at other supercharger stations besides Tesla, unless it's like a need or something. Unless I just can't find any Teslas around her, so there's no need for me to go to one of those stations for it to have a Tesla, Tesla handle on it. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm.
you bring up, as you bring up the Tesla aspect of it too. We've been talking about this from the perspective of a CCS car the whole time, right?
Yeah.
I still have, and this isn't the subject, this episode today, but
Yep.
I'll go on the tangent very briefly.
Tangent.
When Tesla announced, superchargers will be open for all EVs soon, and then they were like, but only if it's a V3 or V4 stall.
Hmm.
Well, that's not a great experience for the end user who maybe isn't an EV geek
Hmm.
or an EV nerd or whatever,
Yep.
who doesn't know the difference between a V3 and a V2 supercharger. They pull up to a supercharger, their adapter interfaces, they plug it into their car, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to have the same thing and vice versa, where someone in a Tesla that doesn't support CCS charging
Yep.
pulls up to one of these, ChargePoint or EVgo or whatever stations that has a NACS cable. They plug it into their car, and then their car won't charge, even though it physically interfaces with the port.
Hmm.
Because these NACS stations, because new NACS is just CCS
Hmm.
as far as communications go, we're in a weird point where there's going to be a decent amount of fragmentation
Yep.
until either all cars are on the same plug and all the chargers in the ground are the same plug, or until all of the Teslas that only support uh, whatever the non CCS standard is for Tesla. I've just completely blanked on the acronym. Until all of those are off the road, right?
Yep.
That's Until then, we're going to kind of have this weird fragmentation of the EV market, to where you could foreseeably have a situation where you have a 2018 Model 3 roll up to an Iona station, plug into the NACS cable, they can't charge, or vice versa, someone in a Cadillac Lyric with their CCS to NACS adapter showing up to the Supercharger in Little Rock trying to plug in,
Yeah.
and then they can't charge.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of the other, other manufacturers say, "Hey, I pulled up to hey, I was out and about and thought I charged my car at a Tesla supercharge station and it wouldn't let me. Didn't show up in the app. What's going on? There's something wrong with my car." And it was like, "No, that was a V2. It's not going to work there."
Yeah.
So, but like, if you're not an EV nerd or not an EV geek or know that, then that's going to suck.
So yeah. Anyway, that's kind of, I think it's a great thing that the Supercharger network's open. Use the Tesla app to figure out which ones you can and cannot charge at, whatever. But
This is
I
going to
think
take
for the
years.
average consumer, it
Yeah.
does kind of introduce another little pain point until it's all kind of ironed out and worked
Yeah.
on. All right, moving on. NHTSA has launched an investigation on ASS. So
What
the
does that
National
stand for?
getting there.
Okay.
So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, for from here on out, is just NHTSA.
Yep.
Has launched an investigation on Tesla's actually smart summon feature, following at least 16 reports or specific reports of crashes while using the feature. Just to recap, Tesla's ASS allows owners to summon their car to them fully remotely as long as they are within a certain radius of the vehicle. The owner of the car will use the Tesla app and has to press and hold a button to keep the car in motion. And if the button is released, the car stops. That's right?
Yep, we tried it. We have a video about it. We did a short little demonstration in a parking lot. If you want to go through our videos and see that, we have about a 3 or 4 minute video kind of testing that. But that's how it works. You have to hold the button down. Once you release off that button on your phone or in the app, the car just stops.
Okay. So NHTSA's investigation is following their 16 crashes where owners claimed they did not have enough time to react before the car crashed into something. So that's interesting. We'll talk about it in a second. NHTSA has also noted that Tesla has not reported any of these crashes themselves, which NHTSA believes that they should under a general standing order for manufacturers to report crashes while a level 2 ADAS is in use. So let's talk about a few things. So NHTSA's investigation is because owners are claiming they did not have enough time to react before the car crashed into something. That sounds like user error to me.
Yeah.
I guess the argument is the car should be using all of its sensors and then detect that there's something there and not crash into it.
Uh-huh.
But also, if the app is telling you that you, the human, are ultimately responsible for the car's actions,
and it does say that,
then
it's user error. Yeah.
Right. How is that Tesla's fault?
Yeah.
The other hand of it, though, is if the car is using this level 2 ADAS to do the drive to you, the summon feature, right? Then should Tesla be required to report the crashes? If they already are supposed to report crashes of, when the car is just driving on FSD, for example.
Yeah.
If it's using the same tech, should they be required to report when the car crashes while you're summoning it?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think they should. I mean, it's a user error. It's not a Tesla error. I mean, you're pushing the button down to make the car go. If you weren't pushing the button down, the car wouldn't go. And we've tried that out. We've tested. That's how it works. You can't just pick up your Tesla app and say smart summon, hit a button and put your phone down and it comes to you. No, you have to literally sit there and hold the button. And
so the argument on this, though, is that if the user being responsible is the reason why Tesla feels like they don't need to report this themselves, when you use FSD, you, the driver, are still ultimately responsible.
Yeah.
And so in that case, why would Tesla need to report when FSD is used?
I mean, that's a legitimate question, and I don't have an answer for that. I mean,
I don't either. Yeah. So it's just I'm kind of in the party of, I think if the car is actually doing something wrong, so whether it be maybe the people, they let off the button at the perfect time, like in time on the app, and then there was a delay between the app and the car, and that's why the car crashed, right? If there's an actual issue with the car, then yes, this should be investigated. We should figure out what's wrong. Tesla should be allowed to fix it, whatever. But I can't help but feel like this specific kind of investigation is just a target.
Yeah.
It's just to try to sit there and kind of jab at Tesla some.
Yep.
Which, I mean, you know this. I'm not like Tesla's number one biggest fan, right? But I don't think they should be treated unfairly. And so if there's a legitimate issue, then that's one thing. But if Tesla's being investigated because of user error, that just feels wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. So if I'm driving a Ford, I'm using Blue Cruise, and I take my eyes off the road, Blue Cruise disengages and hits a car, that's my fault. That's not Ford's fault. That's my fault
Right.
because I did not follow the rules of the game. I
Right.
take my eyes off the car, it disengages like it's supposed to. And we have, we've done reviews where it will disengage. You turn and start talking to someone in a car that has blue clues, or a car that has, or for what Chevy has, it disengages immediately. And so if the car disengages and it hits something, that's not the manufacturer's fault. That's my fault. So you're right. It should not have to be reported to NHTSA.
Yeah.
But the bigger question is, what happens January 20th? So
I know. Yep.
do all these just go poof? They just go
Right.
away? So what happens after January 20th with all these investigations? And I guess that is the $1 million question.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So yes.
All right. You had enough of that one?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Our final topic is that Sony/Honda have officially unveiled the AFEELA 1. So the Sony-Honda venture, which is known as AFEELA, they've revealed their first look at their production intent model, the AFEELA 1. So just for starters, just big picture, this model, again, is co-developed by Sony and Honda. I don't know what it is with Honda and co-developing EVs.
They want to work with everyone.
It's like they did one with GM, they're doing one of Sony, but now they're also trying to do their own EVs with their whole kind of concept zero. I don't know. Anyway, but they're expecting to build this in Ohio, which is cool. Built in the US. Good deals. Things get confusing really quick on this car, though. So just for starters, this car is expected to have tons of features, including a level 2 ADAS system, some cool like noise canceling stuff. It's going to have what Sony is calling 360-degree spatial sound, whatever that means, and looks like it will be a pretty nice car on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
They're super proud of saying it has like the processing power of like a PS5, all this general stuff because it's Sony, right?
Yep.
Here's where things start getting confusing. So the car is going to launch, they say, in 2026. And they're currently quoting 300 miles of range from a 91 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Mm.
Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
With a peak DC fast charge rate of 150 kilowatt. Could be okay.
Yep.
We'll give it, depending on pricing, that could be fine. AFEELA will be launching this car in its top trim level, which is planned to have an MSRP of $102,999.
Shoo-wee!
So let's just talk about that again. For $102,999, you're getting a 91 kilowatt hour battery pack, 300 miles of range, and a 150 kilowatt peak DC fast charge speed.
Yeah.
Now, the starting model, which is coming later, of course, is $89,000.
Yep.
Which is still too much money.
Yep.
And to me, the car looks like it's the weird love child of a Model 3 and Lucid Air.
Yep.
Which, while on the subject, let's just look at other cars you can get for $100,000.
So yeah, so I got to pull it up on the screen here. Let me share my screen. So go back here, share, and that's funny because this. Guess what? Guess what I have on my screen right now? It is, boom,
the Lucid Air.
Yeah.
So for around $75,000, you can get a Lucid Air with the Dream Drive Pro. Since Sony Sony Honda was super proud to point out, that it's going to have the level 2 ADAS system, whatever. Yep. And so you have to make sure your Lucid has that on the spec sheet because it is an option. That's $75,000.
Yep.
And your Lucid Air will have over 400 miles of range and over 300 kilowatt peak charge speeds.
Yep.
If you look at the launch spec, which is $102,000,
yep,
that puts you in spitting distance of the BMW i7.
Yep.
The EQS.
Mm-hmm.
A base model Taycan. And all of these actual luxury EVs. And I'm not feeling this one.
Yep.
I think if this was a $40,000 car, the specs would be okay, maybe.
Yep.
If it was a 40, 45,000, maybe even 50, I would maybe even excuse it at 50 if it was truly, super nice on the inside. Like, okay, maybe it doesn't charge awesome, but it's really
Yeah.
nice. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck at 50 grand
Yeah.
or 40 grand. But at $100,000,
Yep.
$100,000 gets you a BMW i7, which is like as close as you're going to get to a Rolls Royce without buying a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Or it gets you a Mercedes-Benz EQS, which is an electric S-Class. Or it gets you a Porsche Taycan, which will be 360 kilowatt charging.
Yes.
And
a stupid road tripper. Yes.
It's just a stupid road tripping car, and it's a Porsche, so it's still nice.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I was kind of excited when I saw Sony and Honda were going to be partnering up. When they first announced kind of the concept, I think it was last year at CES. I was like, oh, that looks like it could actually be cool. But now seeing this is what they've come up with, I'm just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's underwhelming. I mean, Honda did something good with the Prologue. I mean, the Prologue sales are good. I mean, yeah, they teamed up with GM, and it looks like just a modified Blazer, which is what it is. It's a decent looking vehicle. I don't know what their target audience is here, because every car you just listed, I would pick over this.
Yeah.
I would get a Lucid any day of the week over this. I would get a Porsche Taycan any day of the week over this. Yes.
And I don't know that Sony, Honda, AFEELA knows what their peak audience is either, because also to note, this is only going to be available in California when it launches.
So they're going after the rich people,
I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, I don't understand why all these new EV companies think that when they come out with a new car, it has to be near 100 grand. I don't understand that. I mean, like I said, Honda did something good that came with the Prologue, and it's what, a $40,000-$50,000 car. I mean, smart move. That was smart. Right. When GM came out with their first EVs, what did they come out with? Affordable EVs. I mean, the person who is buying a Honda Accord is probably not the same person who's going to buy this car.
An AFEELA.
Yeah. If we're saying it right, we're probably butchering the name. We don't know. But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, and I just don't know why Honda is doing this. They're not going to sell that many of them if this even comes to market. So we shall see.
Yep. All right. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you all for plugging into the Friday Charge. Be sure to subscribe to the EV Geek podcast on YouTube and tap that notification icon to be notified when we have new releases. We had some great content released recently, including our best and worst EVs of 2024, what you and I are most excited for 2025, a review of the Kia EV6 GT. And you'll want to make sure you're subscribed, because Monday we release our review of the Hummer EV, which is a beast of a machine. And then we still have in the queue the EX90, Cadillac Lyriq, and a couple other vehicles that we've not yet filmed yet, but are coming up soon. So yeah, you'll definitely want to be around for when those come out. If you have any thoughts or questions, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. So long, everyone, and we will see you again on the next episode of The Friday Charge.